Morning. Good morning. There it is. There it is. There it is. Okay. All right. Well, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you? You made it to church and found a place to park. You should give yourself a pat on the back and an applause. Seriously. Go ahead and do that for yourself right now. Yeah, exactly. You deserve the credit. It's amazing. I'd like to begin with a prayer, please. The Lord be with you.
Also with you.
O God of life, bring peace to our minds, strengthen our bodies, and give courage to our spirits. Where there is weariness, give us rest. Where there is brokenness, bring healing. Where there is loneliness, give community. Make us whole in your love and turn us outward for the good of others. Through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Well, I'm so glad that you're here today. We are going to give you an overview and some really exciting updates to our Center for Wellbeing. But before we do that, for those of us that are relatively new to the congregation, I'd love to tell you a little bit about how we arrived at the Center for Wellbeing and to say a word about what the Center for Wellbeing is. And then I'm going to do some introductions to our amazing staff who will provide some deep dives into some of what I've said, okay? So the first thing that I want to say to you of kind of where all this comes from is that we love you. And that's the big idea, which is love. How can we love you and how can we love each other and be the kind of place where we can be real, where we can understand that we live in a culture of perfectionism and upward mobility, in a world that's on fire, where we feel a lot of fear, and we have a lot of different things that are going on. One of the things that really kind of was obvious to me early on as a priest was that Sunday services were not enough to deal with the struggles that people were dealing with. Now, the services play a vital role in of drawing us together, helping us get out of ourselves and to focus on the power of the living God and strengthen us as we sing. And I loved how our speaker last week talked about how in singing we hold each other up, we nurture each other. We receive the sacrament in our worship. We hear the gospel, and we're comforted and challenged to go and to live lives as disciples. But I think what we're aware of is that there's a lot of stuff that shows up on Sundays and between Sundays, and most of us really do not have a place to go. Sometimes we can go to our families, and that's enough. Sometimes our families are not the best place to go to. And then there are those of us who don't have any family in town. And so getting in to talk with someone, whether it's a physician, where unfortunately we have the most amazing physicians in our church, but they're often only given about 20 minutes to spend time with you. And being able to get in to talk to someone for conversation and therapy can take a very, very long time, and it can be very, very expensive. So we looked at a lot of the things that we were seeing in the life of our congregation, and we said, what would it look like if we were to put together a center that could help deal with a lot of different kinds of things? Because, again, we love you and we care about you, and we're human too. And we have our ups and downs, and we have our struggles. And what we want to be able to do is to do more than what most churches do. So what do most churches do? Most churches, if you have something that you come up and you want to go speak to a pastor or a priest, churches love to do that. But a minister isn't a counselor per se. A minister is not a licensed psychotherapist. And so what we tend to do is we tend to listen, and we tend to refer people if they have deeper issues. And most churches have some kind of referral list, but really don't know who the therapists are particularly, and rarely ever hear about what happens afterwards, unless someone comes forward and says, thank you for the person whose name you gave me. It turned out it was a good fit. We're doing a lot better. And that just felt to me as just wholly inadequate to the kind of deep care that we wanted to be able to offer people throughout a lifetime. So during COVID, when there was a kind of a real pink anxiety after having experienced a lot of difficult things in this congregation, I think over the course of a couple of years pre-COVID, we had 4 suicides in our congregation, 2 adults and 2 teenagers. And that was just, that took us to the place where it clearly became an emergency, and we got organized. And so we hired a therapist, Molly Reitz, who was the first director of therapy. And what she did was, how do you offer therapy to 6,000 people? Well, you can't do that. But what she did was a lot of intake work, listening to what people were dealing with, offering short-term counseling to them, and then referring them out to a network that she had curated, where she had a lot of confidence in that group, and everything's remained confidential, but we were able to get feedback on how well those therapists were really doing. So not only did she come at a critical time, not only did she begin to do some really good work around building networks of therapists, but she also did a lot of education. And then all of a sudden, her book of work filled up so quickly that we brought on board Alex, who worked with Molly. And then Alex's book filled up, and Molly left to return home to Texas, and we hired Amy Bissett, who is here, not here today, but is one of our 2 part-time therapists on our staff. And then as we thought more and more about it, we looked at things and we said, so we're doing this therapy, this is great. What are other elements that we need to include at the Center for Wellbeing? And it evolved this way. First, we realized that our most important work alongside of therapy was helping people build a spiritual core. That, in other words, our faith and our spirituality lies really at the heart of our well-being. And most of us who come from Protestant traditions, even Episcopal and Roman Catholic traditions, have never really been asked to think about what is their spiritual life. That each of us has a spiritual life, and each of us has a spiritual core. And the reality is that oftentimes, because of all the things that we're doing, our activity level, all of the notifications, social media posts, things, there's a deep shallowing that happens in our lives. Does that resonate? And so we don't feel like our roots go down very deep. And there's a shallowing that happens. And as the shallowing happens, we feel more anxiety, we feel more worry, we catastrophize more. And so we realized that what we needed to do was we needed to develop a soul care practice. So now Christ Church is going to be rolling out a soul care practice that we're going to talk a little bit about in a bit, that is going to help individuals and groups cultivate a deeper spiritual life that you can call upon wherever you are, whether you're in Charlotte, whether it's 2 o'clock, middle of the night, or you're in a plane to Iowa or New York, LA, Dallas, to be able to do, or other places too, but to be able to call upon a spiritual life. Mm-hmm. which is truly the greatest thing. So the Center for Wellbeing is doing what we're calling soul care work alongside of the therapy. And then another part of the Center for Wellbeing is education, life skill classes, you see, that hopefully what can do when we do life skill classes around mental health, around marriage issues, around family, around things related to chronic illness, around things related to career, vocation, retirement, rewirement, that we can get ahead of some of the challenges that people are facing and put tools in their hands through extraordinary experts from all over the country, from the finest universities, healthcare centers. It's incredible what we have and what we're offering, that we will offer. And the third area is the fourth area. So we've got soul care, we've got therapy, we've got life skill classes, and then what we have are building a care community. So that's something that Connor has been really working on, that's developing lay chaplains who have a sense of empathy and understanding, who can go and help support people who are going through difficult times. So it's a very robust set of offerings from the most extraordinary people who can do this work that we're really just beginning to do. But it's something that we want you to know about because we want you to take advantage of it. Get over, I'm living the dream and my life is perfect and I don't need anything like this, because we're all struggling and we have to normalize that with vulnerability and really think about, what is my soul saying to me today? Am I tired? Am I weary? Is it an opportunity for me to learn about my soul and take soul classes, soul care classes? Am I dealing with something that's keeping me up at night, that's making me anxious? Is it possible that the time might be to come into therapy for 16 free therapy sessions? Free, confidential, priests don't hear anything about it. It's a $2,800 benefit, free of charge. Extraordinary. Do I want to come and take some classes from world-class experts, science-based stuff? Is now the time to maybe consider doing that so that I can have better life outcomes in my relationships? And then fourth, do I want to be a part of a community that provides support? So there's a lot here. But let's really get into it, because I want you to meet the people that are doing this work, and they're going to do a much better job talking about it than I know. So I want you to meet Alice DeVries. Alice DeVries has been at Christ Church for almost over 2 decades, but on the staff, she has served as a high school youth minister. Alice is trained in some of the most extraordinary things. One is listening skills, and she's an instructor in listening skills. She's a trained spiritual director, which means she's a person that walks alongside of people, helping them think about their spiritual lives, prompting them. Alice, you ready for this? This is unbelievable. Alice has, on a couple of occasions, taught monks how to listen to each other and how to pray. Like, introduce me to somebody who does that, okay? All right. And one of the roles that Alice is going to be playing, she's now full-time on our staff, so she's going to be able to offer soul care classes to adults. But if you have children or grandchildren that are in our program, the fact that your child gets to spend time with Alice and all of her amazing skills and her love, it just blows my mind, Alice, that you bring together senior high kids and teach them contemplative prayer practices, and then you serve them warm cookies while doing all this. It is the most rare of rare offerings. So meet Alice DeVries. Meet Alex Bacon, a licensed clinical social worker who came to us about 4 years ago from Kindermorn. So if you're familiar with Kindermorn offers a suite of services to people who have lost children and friends that are trying to deal with a lot of different issues. So Alice knows how to be there in the midst of the worst times with people, but she doesn't just do that. She does a lot of different kinds of things. But she was here when we were trying to figure out how to coordinate care and do education during COVID. And so she has seen just about everything. And not only does she do assessments for parishioners, not only does she provide counseling, but she does referrals, and she also does teaching education. So more to come as we move through. But I want to turn things over now to our director, Connor Gwynn, who, well, he just makes all of us calm down a little bit. Have you noticed that? Yes. Connor lives out the contemplative life in his own life. Connor is also is a priest. He's also a trained spiritual director. He's a poet, retreat leader, writer, and a real visionary who gets the human soul and gets the concept of grace as good as any of us, if not better, in many, many ways. And we are just so fortunate. And here we are in the midst of a stewardship campaign. The fact that these people said yes, and we support this work with these incredible people is an incredible gift. So say hello to Alex and to Connor. Yeah. So Connor, I'll turn things over to you.
Wonderful. I also want to introduce, this is kind of classic Elizabeth. We have a program coordinator in the Center for Wellbeing and Care named Elizabeth Angerson, who helps all the trains run on time. If you want to register for anything or have any questions, Elizabeth is the one who makes it happen. And she insisted that she not be on stage.
Stand.
There. So there's Elizabeth Angerson. She joined our staff last summer after working in a lot of different nonprofits and organizations, and she's just kind of a behind the scenes and in front of the scenes. I mean, she's helped really revitalize a couple different places and ministries. So Elizabeth, thank you for all that you do. So I want to talk a bit about those priorities that Chip mentioned, and then we'll go into the weeds a bit. But I want to give you a bit of an update because it's been a year, almost a year, that the Center for Wellbeing and Care has been open, which is hard to believe. Last October, we gathered to bless the brand new space and to kind of kick off the beginning of the Center for Wellbeing and Care. But I always like to say that Christ Church has always been a center for well-being and care. And if you know the story of Christ Church, I really love telling it, and you've probably heard me tell it before. This comes from the fact that I started in COVID in July of 2020, and there was no one in the building, and so I had a lot of time to read. And so I read the history of Christ Church and loved what I saw. So Christ Church was founded in 1942 in the midst of World War II. When gas rationing hit Charlotte, people could not drive to the other parishes in town, like St. Peter's or Holy Comforter. And so the Myers Park Episcopalians got together at the drugstore, which is now Sundry's, to be a center for well-being and care. They probably wouldn't have said that, but that's what they were doing. They knew that the world felt like it was on fire, and if you think it's bad now, imagine a world war. They decided we need to get together in community to pray, to study the Bible, and to see how we can support one another. And so that's the root of Christ Church and the root of the Center for Wellbeing and Care. The priorities that we have going forward into the second year, and I just can't believe that we're already saying into the second year. It's pretty incredible. Are exactly what Chip named. Soul care practices, spiritual practices, which we'll talk about with Alice, classes, workshops, and I'm going to give you a long list of all the classes and workshops coming up that you can get involved with. Therapy, which will continue to be kind of a hallmark offering in the Center for Wellbeing and Care. And I want to highlight what Chip said, just in case you didn't hear it. Every parishioner is entitled to 16 sessions of therapy for free. That's incredible. You can call the Center for Wellbeing and Care or email one of the therapists, and generally they can get you in the next week. At most, maybe 2 weeks. And I don't know if you've sought therapy kind of in the wild on your own. It generally does not work that quickly. And you're presented with a big issue right when you start. You Google therapists in Charlotte. And what do you get? Everything. But you get Psychology Today, which is a wonderful website, but therapists pay to be on it. So it's kind of self-selecting there. You maybe get the ones your insurance will cover. And I don't know about your insurance, but mine has like the $ for how expensive they are and then like a star rating. And it really doesn't help you know, is this the therapist for me? Is this a person who's really going to understand me? So it's such a blessing at Christ Church that you can send an email, you can come to your spiritual home, and you can get care, within a week or two. It's an incredible blessing. They don't just offer therapy, though. I saw Alex nodding pretty enthusiastically. The therapists offer referrals to anyone in the world. So it primarily shows up with people who are kind of 1 degree of separation from Christ Church. So my line is always, your uncle in Boca who needs a therapist can call Alex and say, this is what I'm going through. This is the insurance I have. Can you help me find help? And Alex will lean on her networks and her kind of research skills to figure out 3 or 4 options for your uncle in Boca, which is incredible. Okay, so that's therapy. And then the fourth is care communities, and I'm going to talk about that at the end. Christ Church, like I said, has been a center for well-being and care for a long time. One of the things I loved about Christ Church when I came here is even though it's a big place, kind of by the numbers, it feels like a small church in the way that we care for one another, in the way that when you approach a crisis, people kind of rise up to support you and surround you. And so we want to continue that legacy of care, but build a little bit of infrastructure as the church continues to grow. God has blessed this place with enormous growth. We want to make sure we don't lose the care component of Christ Church in the midst of all the growth. So those are the priorities, and it's really exciting. We kind of have lived in the space for a year. I feel like we know, it's like when you move into a new house and you kind of figure out, okay, this is where I'm going to put my coffee mug, and this is where the tissues actually need to go. We figured that out, and now we're turning the corner into some really exciting new priorities for the center. Yeah. Okay, well, I wonder if we can go right into therapy. Yeah. Let's all go into therapy, okay? Close the doors, everyone. We're going to...
I'm so glad to see you.
Yes, it's good to
Tell
see
me
you.
what brings you in today.
Yeah. How have you been?
Why now?
Okay, everyone.
Everything we say will be confidential.
Starting to
except for
sweat a
all
little
of you
bit.
sitting
Yeah,
here.
yeah. Getting a little hot up here. Okay, so I think the first thing I want to ask, and this is what we'll talk about with each of the areas, when we think about well-being, we kind of have a different lens on it than maybe a lot of other places in the world. We have a 6-part system of well-being that I'll talk about at the end, and mental and emotional well-being is just one of the parts that fits into overall well-being for a human being, grounded in spiritual well-being, as Chip said. And so I want to start there, Alex. How does mental health connect with overall well-being in your view?
Okay, I will get there,
Okay.
but I will also own, as I sit on this stage with sages who can speak to things regarding spiritual well-being and wellness so very well, spiritual directors, ministers, I'm nervous. And as I drove in today, I was amusing myself because I was like, there I'll be sitting on the stage with God and Jesus and Mother Teresa. And then I was like, who am I up there?
Mother.
I know. And the first thing I thought of was Charlie Brown's friend Lucy behind the wooden little shack that says, like, doctor is in 10 cents.
Yeah. It's cheaper.
Yeah, so that's me.
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, what would I tell my clients? I was like, well, be vulnerable, go and resource your strengths. I was like, okay, so I'll tell the audience I'm nervous. I'll be funny, and then I'll pray like hell. So I'm accessing my mental health strengths as well as spiritual wellness at the same time. So it's a lofty question with regards to how does mental health line up against spiritual wellness. And I think it's actually a really beautiful interconnectedness of these two concepts, and they touch on similar themes that when you think about it, it seems so symbiotic and it makes a lot of sense. Mental health and spiritual wellness both touch on the themes of meaning and purpose. When we have a sense of a direction, it provides stability, security. They both touch on community and connection, the importance of being connected to oneself, to others, to God, to community, to nature. And they both touch on the concepts of hope and resiliency. And those virtues, those strengths, helping us navigate the ups and downs of life. And so I see a relationship between the two that when I think about the Center for Wellbeing and Care, that physical structure, yes, but just the thematic value that Christ Church promotes, it's just such a beautiful partnership and is a wonderful element of Christ Church that I think is so unique and so valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's alluding to our kind of big system of well-being. I think the trap in the world is to think that we're isolated people with all these isolated like pie slices of our life. Like you have your work life, your home life, your personal development life, your mental health, and they're all kind of separate things that we work on. And what we know from our faith is that Jesus says, Andy Crouch is a theologian who uses the phrase that we are heart, mind, soul, and body systems. Because Jesus says the first commandment is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. And so Jesus recognizes, and I think we're trying to kind of follow in his footsteps in a lot of ways, that we are this kind of mix and mashup of all of these different parts, that mental health is not separate from spiritual health or any of the other areas of our life. So I love that answer. I wonder, you kind of touched on it there. We're here heading into the first year. What are some of the benefits you've seen of having a Center for Wellbeing and Care like this at Christ Church?
And if I could, before that, I'd love for you, before you talk about the benefits, I'd love for you to maybe describe a couple things. One, what's it like when someone comes into your office for the first time? The second follow-up question would be, what's the range of people that come to your office in terms of age and gender? And then let's start there, and then I'll have one follow-up from that.
So I'm literally at a ping pong match right now.
Bookended.
I know. Oh, so as Chip referenced earlier, the work, we now have a physical space down the hall here that's just so lovely. But this work began about 6 years ago with Molly's arrival. And I also would be remiss if I didn't mention my coworker, Amy Stiers-Bissett, who's out of town today. But it's been ongoing even before we had such pretty brick and mortar space. When Christ Church and the vestry staked a flag in the area of prioritizing accessible mental health, they were saying we want to destigmatize what it means to get this type of support. And we want to make it accessible, having therapists here and having referral education and these offerings. So it's accessible, it's destigmatized, it's normalized. And so when I see clients walk in my office, whether they're 15 years old or 75, it's like there's an audible exhale, kind of like I'm in a space. Or let me also add, when someone calls me or emails me, because I want to put an asterisk and say, well, we have this offering down the hall. I love nothing better than connecting Christ Church members to therapists in the community, because not everyone has a comfort level with coming on site here at 1412 Providence, but wants help. So I do want to emphasize that my role also is about helping connect Christ Church members to therapists in the community who, for proximity or privacy or comfort levels, might be a more agreeable fit. So that's really important for me to emphasize. Christ Church therapists don't feel territorial. Our objective is to want to help spread mental health wellness across the spectrum. But the exhale, now with this space, folks truly walk in, and there seems to be, by the very existence of the center, there's an affirmation that what they're going through matters, and it matters enough that we have this center, and it matters enough that the church is giving them the opportunity to access counseling. And so yes, for middle schoolers through older adults, they're finding a space of validation, a space where they can explore their curiosities about themselves, their psychology, their impulses, their triggers, their relationships, in a space that, yes, I do think in the context of the church offers security and comfort. I'll see clients who have been Christ Church members for years, but it's been a while since they've been in the sanctuary. But this is their church home, and they come, and I'm not saying a counseling session is a sanctuary service, but they feel like they're being fed in a way that feeds their soul, feels like going to church, feels comforting in a way that's very distinct. Or I'll see an adolescent who's grown up in Christ Church. They've been under the watchful guise and raisings of Alice and Sarah Ford. And so there's this kind of natural continuum that when they're at this juncture in their life where they need some more support as an adolescent, there's a comfort level in getting it from Christ Church. I'll get a telephone call from a Christ Church member whose neighbor is in crisis, and the Christ Church member needs consultation. So I love being able to help someone help their neighbor, and I can give them some ideas, or I can give them an outlet for their anxiety. So there's a myriad of ways that the center can help support beyond just a 50-minute session.
You're getting into Connor's benefits question. I want to get back to that, but I do think that this is important. Because there's something happening here that really is bucking the trend in America, and that is, first, give us a couple of things that you hear most often that people are dealing with, and then tell the congregation about this interesting gender new therapy trend that's happening here. So what are the top issues that people are coming to you for, and who are these people?
So I could itemize, and I can. There's the laundry list of, issues, reasons that people pursue therapy: depression, anxiety, trauma, grief and loss, relationship issues, family discord. But and truly, I actually am hesitant even to itemize, because quite frankly, what I want to emphasize is that you come because you don't feel well. You want to feel better. So I worry when I itemize that someone's going to think, well, she didn't say X, Y, Z, so what I'm going through doesn't warrant support. What warrants support is that you feel that you want to feel better. What warrants support is that you are looking for change. What warrants support is that you're feeling weary in your relationships, in your psychology, in your physical body. So yes, there's a broad spectrum of things that people are seeking service for. As I say, everybody's got their something.
And Connor,
yeah.
would you all both speak to the gender thing that's happening in first-time people?
Thank you. Two things I want to bring up that just blow my mind, and my colleague Amy's, that we really value seeing. About 60% of the clients that we see, that we care for, have never experienced counseling before. So that demonstrates to us that this resource is encouraging, supporting, maybe even motivating folks, that what they're going through, to my point, matters enough. What we've seen in the past 3 years is a significant uptick in male Christ Church members seeking support, which bucks a national trend that usually has them being the lesser percentage. But I would say about 45% of the clients that we see are male. whereas probably nationally it might be more in the 20s or so, or at least it used to be about 10 years ago. So that's really powerful. And when I think of the roots of the program, dating back to the 4 suicides 7 years ago, all males, I think it's absolutely worth heralding that we're seeing men reach out for support.
There was a period a few months into Amy's time with us. So Amy Stiers-Bissett is our second therapist who joined us last year. And she came to me and said, basically as she was learning, and this happens with every new staff member when they join the Christchurch staff, they say like, this is like the community and the support and all of that. But she said that at that particular moment, her caseload, so just the client she was seeing, was majority men. And she said, in my career, I've never had that happen. And she was kind of blown away. And that's what, anytime we talk about, even 45% of the total caseload, that's amazing.
Well, and I would be remiss if I didn't highlight the huge benefit that the male ministerial staff's endorsement of this work and their own disclosures about the importance of mental health in their life. So kudos to you and your colleagues who are vulnerable and are models. Yeah.
Well, I think, so we'll move now to kind of talk about soul care, and I want to turn this over to Alice for just a second. But one thing became clear after we opened the new space. It became clear we didn't really want to become a counseling center per se. We don't need and we don't have the corner on counseling in Charlotte. We need to help make counseling more accessible, and I think we're doing that. We need to connect people with mental health resources in the community. I think we're doing that well. But we really wanted to stay grounded in our sense of holistic well-being, grounded in spiritual practices. And that's where the soul care curriculum and programs kind of emerge from. I loved your point about how the motivator might just be, I would like to feel well. And that's been a motivating question for us from the very beginning of this work. In the 6th chapter of John, Jesus comes upon a man who is begging, he's blind, he's been there for decades. And do you remember the question he asks him? Do you want to be made well? And without this turning into a Bible study, the answer is yes. I mean, he's blind and he's begging and he obviously needs help. But Jesus says, do you want to be made well? Which makes us think there is some deeper wellness other than just solving his immediate problems. Because Jesus didn't say, would you like to see? Do you want me to heal you? He said, do you want to be made well? And I think that's kind of the work we're focused on. But because we're a church, we recognize that to be well starts with your soul, and it starts with your spiritual well-being. We all know people who have everything you could possibly want, and it still doesn't feel like enough. Or the people who have physical health and are in incredible shape, and there's still something missing. And I think what we would say in our tradition is there's a soul issue, that they're not grounded maybe in their soul in that way. And so I want to ask Alice, here, you have been working here at Christ Church in our youth department and in teaching communication skills, and you really know and have seen a lot from all ages and all stages of folks. I wonder if you can tell us a bit about not only your work as a spiritual director, how that shows up in all those places, but if you can connect everything we've kind of talked about so far, but how does that soul work connect with well-being?
Well, that's a lot.
Just throwing out big questions.
Yeah, lots of questions. Yeah, I was trying to think. The question, the fact that I'm a high school youth minister and now I'm getting the honor and privilege to get to do this soul work. It came about where my entire vocation has been working with teenagers, and there was an author that came to Christ Church, and we talked, and he was blown away by the soul work I was doing with the group of teenagers. And at this point, I was not on staff at Christ Church. I was just a volunteer, and he asked me, because he said, oh, we should collaborate and write a book together and all these things. And I was like, oh, wow. And he said, what are the letters behind your name? And I was like, Mom? You know? And so that really rattled me. And I thought, gosh, I have no credentials. And so I decided, parents are entrusting me to walk alongside their teenagers. And so I decided I would explore the art of spiritual direction. And at this point, I was already a communication skills trainer at that time, and I was an EFM mentor, but I still felt like I needed something more. So I did a certification 4 years to become a certified spiritual director. And through that, I really didn't have an intention of becoming a spiritual director. I really just wanted to have letters behind my name so that parents could feel confident when I walked alongside their teenagers. But through the art of spiritual direction, I learned how important it is to do the inner work, the inner exploration of our soul, that each one of us has a divine nature inside of us. We have divine wisdom, and oftentimes it's very difficult and challenging to still our hearts and our minds and turn inward and do that inner exploration so that we can really come to know our true self, our divine nature, our authentic self. And I think that therapy and spiritual direction work together beautifully because we all have our inner woundedness as a child. And therapy is the art of helping us heal those inner wounds so that we can have the courage to be still and go inward and explore our divine nature. So that is what I do with these teenagers, these amazing young people that I have the privilege of walking alongside, and now adults who I sit with in spiritual direction, is we cultivate an inner chapel using the Ignatian spirituality terminology. And we can even create, like they can imagine their own inner chapel that you take wherever you are. And you can decorate it, but it's a place where you feel grounded and you feel like you are operating out of your core, your authenticity. And through that, each of us have moments when we feel like we are, like you may be in nature, you may be at summer camp, you may be with people that are very life-giving, where you feel these core descriptions that are very conveniently labeled with 8 C's that I have learned in my spiritual direction.
Could you list the 8 C's,
Yeah,
please?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, great.
See if I can remember them all.
Yeah.
But they are moments when we feel calm rather than anxious, when we have clarity of thought instead of a state of confusion, when we feel compassion beyond our ability to feel compassion sometimes instead of judgment, when we feel confident instead of insecure, or we feel drawn towards connection rather than a movement away to isolation, when we feel courageous rather than fearful, we feel creative when there's a sense of creativity instead of burnout. And one of the most important ones is when we are in a spirit of curiosity rather than certainty. And so cultivating that core, that spiritual core, is any time you are feeling, you tap into any of those states of being, then that is your divine nature coming out in you. And so in spiritual direction, that is a lot of the work that that I am given the privilege to do is I'm really just a companion, to be able to sit with someone and to create the space for them to be able to have the courage to turn their gaze inward and to begin to explore their divine nature, and to be able to see what are the things in your life that are holding you back from being able to be in that, what I would call the divine flow, which encompasses those 8 C's. And anytime your life, if you are manifesting the fruits of the Spirit, if there is peace, love, joy, gentleness, forbearance, kindness, and any of those things, then those are probably the things in your life that are life-giving and that you are in your divine core. And that's pretty much the litmus test with sitting with someone. If your life is filled, and all of ours are, trust me, but if your life is filled with anxiety or fear and resentment and frustration and all those things, then that's the opportunity when you can get quiet and you can get still through contemplative practices, and be able to explore your interior life. Like, what is going on? What in my life is causing me to feel these things? And how can I tap into the divine nature so that I can cultivate a desire to rest in God's presence? And the more you're able to do that, then you can begin to trust that the Spirit is with you.
Y'all, I have the best job in the world. This is the kind of team, this is the team that I get to work with and that we have in the Center for Wellbeing and Care. It's absolutely incredible. And I hope you hear that all of these things overlap. So that's what I love about the work that we're doing in the center, that it's not therapy against spiritual practices, and it's not kind of physical exercise practices against spirituality or mental health. It's all of it together, because we really need all of it to fit together. I think of our own well-being as like a mobile that hangs above a crib. And there's all these moments where the weight kind of shifts, and there's some times where our physical well-being is in great shape, but our mental health is not in great shape. And there are times where it shifts really quickly, and our physical well-being kind of goes out the window, but our mental health is strong. But in all of it, what we want is to give you that spiritual core, where you can be on the flight to Dallas, or you can be in the waiting room for your wife's procedure, or you can be nursing a baby, or you can be in carpool, and you can draw on that inner chapel, that inner strength, the inner flow of spiritual well-being that you have access to. Because what we don't want, we love Christ Church and our spiritual home. We don't want the only spiritual experience you have in a week is between 8:45 and noon on Sunday mornings at 1412 Providence Road. If anything, this is like the charging station to send you out in the world to encounter God in all that you're doing. And that's what we would like to equip you with in the Center for Wellbeing and Care.
And kind of, if I could say, it's okay to feel like you're at the beginning, and to find this really interesting, but to be unclear about what to do with it. I think the things that have been brought up here are, what would it be like to live with a little bit more spiritual, psychological, mental resilience? Does anybody want less of that? Right? And what's so great is you have a place where you can come and learn that and deepen that, because there's a real sense in which it's never a destination. You can't just come and buy it. You know, it's a deeper life of putting your spiritual core first before the life hack or the new certification in business or another obligation to commit to that's only going to leave you more stressed out. You have a place, and Connor's going to get to this in a second, where we have classes and experiences to help you develop your spiritual core that will open up your whole life. And you can always come back to it as we do our work. So,
Yeah. So we're near the end of the time, so I do want to talk about care communities just a little bit. Like I said at the beginning, we have a legacy of being a very caring congregation, and that remains true. So when you think of care communities, think of some of the guilds that kind of make this church run. So the Sunshine Guild that takes the altar flowers, makes them into smaller bouquets and delivers them to people in the congregation who might be having a hard time or maybe have a birthday coming up and just want a little bit of recognition. We have the Caring Guild that does receptions for funerals. We have the bereavement ministry team that writes handwritten cards to anyone in the congregation who loses a loved one. You get a card every month for a year following the loss. So we have all these little care communities that really make this place what it is. So those will continue. Be on the lookout for more care communities. Our breast cancer survivor group is expanding. Our Sacred Stitches group, our prayer shawl ministry is expanding. So stay tuned, and there'll be more opportunities to get involved and really just to come sit in a group with other people, to caring for someone else, but also finding yourself cared for in the process as well. Chip mentioned lay chaplains, so I just want to give you a little introduction into our lay chaplains program. So we have our first cohort of lay chaplains, 13 parishioners who have been trained in listening and prayer and that ability to kind of be a companion on the journey. When you go through a crisis at Christ Church, the clergy will still be the first ones to respond. So when there's the death, the big diagnosis, maybe you're in the hospital and something's going wrong, call the church. We have an on-call priest every week. We will be the ones there for you. But there's that kind of middle ground after the crisis when maybe you are the mom that's been on bed rest for a couple months, or you lost your husband last year and the crisis is over, but the need for companionship and connection is still there. This is where lay chaplains will step in. And they're kind of got the Christ Church seal of approval to come in and be with you, to pray with you, to bring you communion, maybe if you're homebound, but to come alongside you in your journey. So I want to read you the names of our first group of lay chaplains. Some of them are here, just so you can know the kind of communities that we're starting. We have Laura Bond, Betsy Blue, Baron Chandler, William Harris, Mary Klutz, Mark Landers, Carol Lorenz, Julie Marr, Rolene McGinnis, Michael Murphy, Rick Newton, Mary Davis Smart, and Ann Ranson. And they are around, and they are ready to talk to you about the kind of lay chaplain program, but also if you'd like to be connected with a chaplain, you can email me, and we'll get that ball rolling, okay? All right, 2 logistical things, and I'm going to read you a handful of things. I'm going to try not to overwhelm you with all that's coming up at Christ Church. It's all on the website, so you can get more information there. The first is an invitation to see the space, if you've not yet. The Center for Wellbeing is where the green room used to be, as well as the parlor and part of the blue room. It's open now, and so after this, the staff will be over there to show you around if you'd like a tour. And I will clear up a rumor that's been spreading. The Center for Wellbeing is not going to be in the new Parish Life building. This is the Center for Wellbeing and Care. We're open, and that was a really intentional decision, to remain at the heart of the parish and not to be kind of tucked over in the new building where you have to go up the stairs in the back alley to get your therapy. Instead, we are right in the heart of everything because well-being and care is the heart of all that we do here at Christ Church.
And I want to emphasize private entrance, multiple ways to get in and out.
And no need to check in with Ainsley.
Yes.
You just walk in as if you're walking to the Good News shop and you just
And
head
the
down the way.
clergy do not know who is in therapy.
No.
They're under HIPAA law, and everything's confidential.
Exactly. And then one, just in case you're a parent who got a little nervous by what's happening up here, Alice is still our high school youth minister. Okay? Yeah, there you go. That has not changed. She's adding a role as a facilitator in the Center for Wellbeing and Care, but just like the center itself, it's really a recognition of the work that she has been doing for decades now. And so it'll expand her offerings to the whole congregation, but just, take a deep breath. She's still our high school youth minister doing all the work that she does there. Okay, so a few things coming up. We have a lot of faith forums coming up that are kind of well-being and care related. Next week, we have Michelle Eichert here talking about parenting with perseverance. That will be amazing. John Philip Newell will be here on October 19th, leading a week-long retreat, or weekend-long retreat, basically, with a Friday night event at Myers Park Methodist, a Saturday retreat here, and then a Sunday faith forum, as well as preaching in the contemporary service. He is one of the kind of pioneers of Celtic spirituality and soul care, and it's a great honor that we'll have him here. On October 12th, and there's not a slide for this one, we will do an introduction to soul care. So you heard a little bit about soul care here. If you come back on October 12th, we'll do a deep dive into the different levels of classes that we'll be offering, including down the road next year, we'll have a small group experience where you can really grow together with a community, build your spiritual life that will end with a retreat at a monastery. So that will be a great experience. A few more things coming up. This summer, Amy Stiers-Bissett offered a workshop here at Christ Church called Befriending Your Nervous System. Did anyone take that workshop? Anyone in the room? Okay, I see one hand. There was a kind of standing room only, full class. And so she is going to take that show on the road. So one of the things we're aware of is that not everyone can come to Christ Church, and particularly Sunday mornings are a big deal around here. And so we want to expand our offerings. So we are taking the Center for Wellbeing and Care on the road to Southminster on October 7th from 1:30 to 3. Amy will take your Befriending Your Nervous System workshop out there. And this is the first of many if you were not at Southminster and you just thought, hey, wait a second. We will take it around to other places as well as we expand our offerings. We have our Living with Grief and Hope series. This is a long-standing 4-week series here at Christ Church. If you have lost someone in the last few years, or really there's no time limit on it, and would appreciate small group connection to work through your grief and the hope that we have in Christ, this is a great opportunity. Registration closes this week, so please check that out. And then I will talk about 2 more things because I don't want to overwhelm you with all that's going on. We have a great opportunity with a local legend here in Charlotte named Dr. Matthew Alexander. He's kind of the foremost expert on marriage therapy in town. He has a specialty in infidelity and really helps work with couples through that. But he's just a really wise soul, and he's going to offer a 4-week series here in October and November called Modern Wisdom for Troubled Times. Does anyone kind of feel like they could use some wisdom for troubled times? Yeah, I see some nods and some exhales. So Matthew Alexander will be with us looking at how do we make wise life decisions in the midst of the kind of troubled times that we find ourselves in. So please check that out. And then last but not least, I could go on. I have 3 pages of things that are coming up. We have an expert coming in from the Harvard Digital Wellness Lab who's going to be talking about digital well-being, not only for our kids, which I know every parent and grandparent in the room can kind of see why we might need to talk about digital well-being, but here's the secret. We need to work on our own digital well-being as well. We have to put our own mask on before we can help others. So that'll be a faith forum coming up, and then we'll have some kind of tag-along programming later in the year, thinking about digital well-being and how we bring that into our lives. Okay. Again, I could really go on and on about all that we're offering, but I hope this has given you a glimpse into what we're doing in the Center for Wellbeing Care. Chip, I wonder if you have any final words before
I just want to say, are we not blessed with this incredible group of people? And with a very unique and deep and thoughtful mission and resource that you help make possible. And so as you think about your generosity and your support, to do extraordinary things, we have to have extraordinary generosity. But we know this is one thing that we can point to that has and will save people's lives. And I can't tell you how proud I am, and I look forward to all the work to come, and I'm grateful for these incredible servants who are leading this work. So thank you all so much for coming today.
Thank you.
Thank you.